Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Supervision Matters podcast with Rita Sever, a leadership coach, HR consultant, and author of Supervision Matters and Leading for Justice. Hey everybody, it is time to talk about more Supervision Matters with Rita. We've been talking about feedback the last couple of shows, the importance of feedback. I did a brief overview of what feedback is, again, how important it is, how to give feedback effectively. And now we're going to talk about how to receive feedback. So I think, Rita, I'm just going to say we've been dealing with the F word for some people, right? Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, I think for many of us, it feels that way.
Yeah, but receiving it can be, we talked about how to do it effectively, kindly, positively, but then receiving it, depending on the person and their background and their life, this can be difficult to do. So,
Absolutely. For
yeah.
many of us, we have a protective defense mechanism. And even if you want to be open, sometimes that defense mechanism kicks in. So you really have to work with it to be open to the feedback.
Well, you know what I hear a lot is from authors, and you're an author, right? You've got your two books, Leading with Justice, Supervision Matters. And
Right.
then, especially when it gets into the fiction side, these books go out to critique groups and beta testers, and they come back saying, well, this didn't make sense about this character, or I don't like this, or,
Right.
but the authors really want this information. And then maybe go have a happy hour to get out of the non-happy hour and then go, okay, let me sort what's important
Absolutely.
and do
Yeah.
it.
I felt that way I majored in English in college. I think I'm good with grammar and all that. And when my manuscript came back from the proofreader, I was like, oh my God, every page was marked up. And it took a few deep breaths and a walk around the block to say, okay, let's dig in here.
Yeah, it's hard because it's like, oh, okay, I thought I got this.
I
I
I
don't
thought
think
I'd get
there's,
she'd catch a few things, but whoa, it was a lot. And all
the
good, all
magazines,
good.
every magazine we put out, no matter what, there's always this, oh, no way, we thought we have it down. There's more, we've got a bunch of proofreading, all kinds of, help for that kind of thing. We've got technical help for it. But then the weirdest thing will just pop out as soon as you're all excited, it's done,
Exactly.
it's out, and you're going, yay, yay, yay. And then someone will say, hey, you never put the title of the article on or
Right. Or
something
you
like,
have last year's date or something.
yeah, it's just the weirdest, you go, no way, did that happen? And sometimes you got to move on and learn, like really kind of look at how did that happen and go, okay, I remember I was rushed and I just threw it in there instead of just coming, you know what I mean? So you
Right.
have to kind of sit back and look at it. But you've put together a list, and everybody, it's in the episode notes. You put 10 steps to receiving feedback. So I think we've kind of started touching on this. You say number one is be open to it. Try not to get defensive. Ooh, yeah.
Right. Yes. The remember that you want to know what's working and not working. It really is important to find out, are you showing up the way you want to
Hmm.
be? Are you doing the work you think you're doing? Are you accomplishing what you set out to do? And feedback is going to tell you some of that.
Mm,
So it's important to remember why people are giving you feedback. Hopefully, they're giving it to you with a kind heart and setting you up for success, like we talked about before.
hmm.
And even if you're a supervisor, there's a part of you that probably goes, I don't need feedback, but it's important to be open to it because it, again, will help you build a more successful working relationship. So,
I
yes, try
agree.
to be open to it. The defensiveness may come up and just say, it's okay, let's just sit here and hear what they have to say. That's all we have to do right now. Take a
Mm.
couple deep breaths
Deal
and
with the facts. Yeah.
yeah.
You can lose it later.
Yeah, you might need to, have some processing time later, but try to stay in listening mode when you're
Mm.
receiving the feedback.
Because it's all about what's the main goal for the company or the organization when we're talking about this. And sometimes that feedback can make, that can actually lead you to a promotion. You know,
Absolutely.
I remember when I first got to this country and one of the jobs, like I didn't realize how bad I was and slow with the money because it was so different.
Uh,
This is back when we dealt with cash. These
right.
um, but the money all looked the same to me. Everyone's accent was different to me. And so I was not as quick as you would think because I was trying to hear people. And then I'm going, whereas you travel, you're England and everything, right? And you sit and you
Right.
look at this note and you're like, that makes sense. This is the big one. This is the colored
Right.
one. And this penny is big or whatever. And here I got here and I was like, God, this is not, what how I'm used to because a five is the same. And so it was really interesting. And as soon as they said that, boy, did I just knuckle down and did some crazy quick practice, and I was fine.
Right. Right.
And I didn't realize I was too slow, on that.
Right.
So
So that feedback told you something you needed to know.
yeah. So now you say number two is help them frame it if necessary. So this is you want to you like it's almost asking for them to repeat it so that you can be sure you're on the same page. Is that what you mean?
Or asking clarifying questions. So in
Mm,
our last session last month,
mhm,
I gave a formula for giving feedback. And if you have that formula in mind, it was JOIN. You can use it when you're receiving it too. So the J, you might just want to say, okay, before we start, I just want to remind us both, we both want the same thing. We both want this team to be successful. And then you move into listen, something like that. Then you listen. And if they don't frame it, if they, say, well, you're doing it wrong and you're taking too much time, you can say, so what you can help clarify it using the O for objective. What did you actually see me do? That would help me
mm,
understand. And then what was the impact on the work? Can you be clear about that? And then what are you specifically asking me to do different?
mm,
So you can use the join to ask questions to help them frame it in a way that you can hear it. Even if they don't know the formula, they don't want to know the formula, you can help them say it more clearly so that you can
mm.
hear it.
That's true. I like that. I like that. So you know it, and then they know you're listening too.
Right, right.
That's another good thing. So you're
So,
checking for understanding. That's number three, but that formula really kind of takes care of that to kind of reread it back to them and go and make
yeah.
sure that you're
And checking
understanding.
for understanding might be asking more about how does it impact your work? Is it about our relationship, or is there some way that what I'm doing is making your job harder? So that can
Okay,
be
yeah,
part of
the harder
clarifying.
thing.
So
Yeah. Hmm. Okay, because sometimes, yeah, and go ahead.
just I wanted to sort of step out for a minute and just say something that's not on the list that's important is remember that you're modeling how you're receiving feedback as well as practicing it. So
Mm,
again, especially if you're a supervisor, you want to show up and show them how to receive feedback
mm.
as well as actually receiving the feedback because
Yeah, have some backbone.
if you've asked for feedback and they give you some and you immediately say, that's not true, I don't do that, they're not ever going to give you feedback again.
Hmm. And that's not good
Right,
because you're out in the dark, and that
right.
means you're going to go at some point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Feedback, I mean, this is even just in relationships, right? Is
yep,
having like, hey, this is what's not too good, and this is, hurting me or whatever. And then you find out maybe it's not maybe things aren't compatible, right?
right,
Even in
right.
a work situation, a personal situation. And if it's not compatible, then be
Then there
Speedy
are choices,
Gonzalez and start moving on into a
right?
place that is compatible for you. Feedback
That's
is
sort
not
of
necessarily bad. Yeah.
exactly. And that's sort of in one way, the worst case scenario of getting feedback, although, like you said, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But hopefully, there are so many more times where it's just a misunderstanding.
Hmm.
Somebody interpreted something you said and felt disrespected, or they missed a step in what you were trying to tell them what to do. So that's the other part of feedback is hopefully you can clarify and clear the air and then continue on.
Mm. We could look at it in music too, and your microphone gives you feedback. Okay, you
Right.
know, that's why we have monitor speakers as musicians, and singers.
Exactly.
It
Yeah,
helps us understand what the audience is hearing, helps you hear. And that's, it's kind of, hey, and you can tell, and you have to learn to read a room. Same as a speaker or a supervisor, you have to learn to read. If something's not going over very well, you have to realize you're getting feedback in the moment. And
exactly.
what was the word you said? Or maybe you're taking too long.
Yeah,
Feedback
what just
is,
happened? Yeah.
and lack of feedback is actually a sad thing.
It
Yeah.
is. It's very hard when I do a training and I get no response. That's awful. I'd rather
Yeah.
have people say, I don't understand or I don't agree than have nothing. That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
hard.
Because you have something to go on and find out, oh, okay, maybe this is a whole other perspective that I never thought of.
Exactly.
So
I
sometimes,
I
mhm.
like the music parallel. That's really good. The other one that I talk about in my Leading for Justice book is I talk about how cars now give you feedback. That,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
veering into the other lane or you're about to hit something, they'll start beeping or grab the wheel from you or whatever. And that's another way that you're getting feedback. But the important thing is that you have to do something with the feedback. That if you just hear the beep and ignore it, you're going to be in trouble. So that's
Hmm.
another piece of feedback. And the same for the music. If you give feedback and you ignore it, then it's not going
Oh,
to
you
go
might as
well.
well just call it a day. You've lost an
Right.
audience and your
Exactly.
gig and for future moments, right? Well,
Right.
also, everything does now that you talk about that with a car, everything in every house gives feedback. Your refrigerator goes ding, ding, ding. You've been standing there picking out with the doors
Right.
open for an hour, and now your food is going to
Right.
go bad to whatever's left in there, or it's going ding, ding, ding. You
Right.
preheat an oven and you're, off doing something else. Your oven's going, hello, hello, you're wasting energy.
Yeah. Or I'm ready. I'm all hot now.
I'm hot and bothered. Give me feedback.
Right.
So there it is. Exactly. So then
Right.
you say number 4 is listen and try on the feedback. Okay. So this is the thing too. It's like sometimes if you jump into the action, then maybe you won't be so frustrated about it.
Right. I think it's really important again to try to stay present and really hear what they're saying and try it on and wonder, like, do I do that?
Mm,
Maybe your first reaction is no, but give it some time and think about it. I
mhm.
think it is important to not, again, the defensiveness, if you're prone to defensiveness, it's going to say, I don't do that. That's not true. But say, well, let's just consider it for a minute. Try it on.
Mm. Because I mean, in sports, this happens. If
Uh-huh.
someone's kicking in a certain way, or okay, I took a golf lesson once. I didn't know I was going to play golf, and it was this PGA guy. I had no listen. It's on the internet. People can Google Lisa's first golf lesson. I'm not joking. It's on the internet, on
How fun.
YouTube. Yeah, it is. Nancy put it with Benny Hill music. It's hysterical because the way I kept doing this weird thing with my leg like a flamingo, and he
Oh,
kept trying to tell me you're you're not going to be able to hit the ball if you keep doing this with your leg.
oh,
And actually then my knee would go up and it looked like I was going to knee him in a place he didn't want to be kneed. And so it is really, really funny, but it became funny. But it was like if he didn't tell me, I would never have been able to fix it. So I'd
right.
have to sit there and go, is this what you mean? Do you do that? And so through that, I mean, that's why we take lessons. And I think lessons, when we go to a teacher for something, you're there to be, you know, told, hey,
Right.
no, you do it this way instead.
Right.
So as a student, and I think that's a way to kind of look at everything is we can still be a leader and still be a student at the same time. We can still be effective
And
in our jobs, but as soon as we forget the student component, that's when we're not good at the feedback. And we're all students at life if we want to be.
that's very true. Yeah. And we can
Yeah.
always do better. And if
Yeah.
nothing else, maybe what I'm doing works with a lot of people, but if it's not working for this person in front of me who's giving me feedback, then that's important for me to hear. And
Yeah.
then I have a question of, can I shift what I'm doing so it'll work better for this person? Most of the time you probably can, but maybe sometimes, like you said, it's like, no, I can't do it that way.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
I remember a company we worked for when we got here. It was in sales in the music world, and I think we've touched on that before, but they had like a protocol of you do not chew gum because it's
uh,
offensive to this generation that was our
right.
market. You do
Uh-huh.
not do chewing gum. And people were, and I don't chew gum anyway, but like some people had a hard time and they were like, you lost this deal because you were chewing gum and that is
Um,
offensive. So when it's offensive to someone, they're not going to spend thousands of dollars with you.
right. Because they will feel disrespected.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Right. Right.
To me, I'm just gonna go, it's annoying. It is kind
Right.
of interesting, you know. But if someone tells you, and maybe your boss steps aside and says, "Hey, we have this protocol, and I notice you do it. It's obviously a habit. Don't do that while you're trying to, close a deal.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get further ahead." And you there, I know that sounds nuts, but it really actually is a major truth. And it,
That's a great example.
I
Yeah.
mean, and it's so small and stupid, like it's that
Right.
insignificant, but it cost you a deal. Somebody else will get
Right.
it, and you did all the hard work for it and maybe be better at it. But just because of that one little habit,
Mm-hmm.
you lost it, you know?
Right. Good
Oh,
example.
yeah, I remember that. Okay, so then you say you have to thank the person for the feedback.
Yes, that's a really important
Oh,
practice. It's good for all of us, but especially if you're a supervisor, because I have a point later. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but if someone is that you supervise is giving you feedback, they're stepping out of their comfort zone. To give somebody, your supervisor, feedback is a brave thing to do. So you want to thank them for that bravery, even if you don't agree with the feedback.
mm,
And to some extent, that's true for everybody. It's hard to give feedback. So when
mm.
somebody gives you some, show them the grace of saying, thank you for letting me know what your experience is or how this is landing for you. And then you can follow up later if
Mm.
it doesn't ring true. But in the moment, thank them to keep that door open so that they will keep talking to you.
I think that's hugely important. I mean, we've talked about that. Just it could be a client giving you some feedback
Right?
that can make or break a relationship,
Absolutely. Yeah.
like the chewing gum. If the client said, "Hey, would you mind?
Mm-hmm.
I really can't concentrate in this negotiation while you're chewing gum."
Right.
And I was a salesperson, I would be, "Oh my gosh, I totally forgot I did it," because if it's a habit, right?
Right.
That's the thing, and people, any habit, right? It
Mhm.
becomes a habit, so you forget your boundaries, and
Right.
so that kind of thing happens. And even speech, we do it where the word you know
Right.
it's like, trust me, we do podcasting. The word is prevalent in the world, and I really don't care about it, but it's
Uh,
but if someone is eventually, and not giving any information, a listener is going to go, well, that's you're so people have to work on it. That feedback is crucial, and to say thank you, I think it means that someone has gone out of their way, especially if it's politely gone out of their way and kind of, because it takes a lot. They may not be invested in you and they're doing it. That's
exactly.
that's a very kind person to give feedback.
Absolutely.
And if it's not asked for, that's the hard thing too. If it's not asked for.
Yeah, that it's much harder to hear feedback if you haven't asked for it. And that's where we get into the power dynamics again sometimes because the supervisor doesn't necessarily have to ask you if you want some feedback. It's sort of
Mm,
part of the deal that you're going to get it. And
mm.
it is harder to hear, but important. I was just
Oh, so if
reflecting
it
on,
was an employee telling the supervisor, Like,
Or either way. Yeah. But
mm,
so especially the employee telling the supervisor again there, that's a brave thing to do.
mm.
I just thought of this
Well, yeah.
other example, like the gum. I once had a client who was this guy who, not the but he said dude all the time. Like every sentence
That's me.
would say
That's me.
dude.
Well, you're in
And
California. You're prevalent, but dude is. I say it to women. I'm like, dude, and I'm like, I know you're not a dude, but dude, and I'm like,
yeah,
you really got to stop this.
right. And their supervisor had hired me as the coach because they said they're so good, they're ready to be promoted, but they can't be an executive and call people dude all the time. So it's again a little thing, but what a gift they gave that young man.
Yeah, because then from there, it's moving on in a really cool way.
Right.
That's awesome. No, but the dude thing is, yeah, because you can have these. That's the thing too. People are really talented in something, but maybe not in other areas, and that can be, a company wants them, but it's like this weird, if everybody has to follow this rule, so do you, even if you're the brilliant one. Like
Hmm.
that's kind of a ooh. But I think the person that's the team versus the supervisor, and then someone noticing like this supervisor is losing the team and the team is starting to gossip, and
Right.
they go up to the supervisor and say, hey, can I ask you, can we have a conversation? It would be more of like, I've noticed, within the team, I've heard some, bits and pieces here and there, and I'm not ratting on people. I just want you to know that when you talk, there's a way that, or whatever you do, like don't say dude,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Then, when
But
you keep calling this group of ladies dude, they're and maybe it's a guy like doing, oh, that would be bad. Oh, yeah.
right. Right.
It's like me calling women dude, and I'm not even meaning that. It's just like, dude, I'm so excited.
Oh, right.
it's
And there are times when, of course, that's fine, but
but
get like if
yeah.
it's breaking down the team or people are getting offended, then it needs to be
Yeah,
addressed.
Nancy always goes, hey, I hear you've got this new thing. Where did you pick that up? And then I go, I don't know. Where did I pick it up? Oh, but I think it's hard, but I think, doing it is good because it's also showing you care.
Right.
Okay, so we said thank you for the feedback, which is that's hard, but it's worthy. Then
Yeah.
you say take some time to consider if you need it, what if it were true. So that's the reflection when you're
Right.
away from the person who gave you the feedback. That's when you have to really
Exactly.
kind of
That's the follow-up step of, consider it in the moment, but then after, try it on again. And I think it's very helpful to ask yourself, what if this is true? What if I am offending people? What if I, you know, do have a reaction that makes people feel scared or a tone that makes people feel demeaned?
Mhm.
I don't think I do, but what if I do? Maybe I should think about this.
Mm. The other thing too, is maybe doing some research with others to get different
Absolutely.
perspectives, or maybe like if it's like in sports, you can go and watch a rerun
Hmm.
to
Right.
see exactly, because sometimes so many things are recorded these days,
Hmm.
and maybe also write it down instead of
Right.
just having a cup of coffee and daydreaming about it and
Right.
not doing, like, kind of take concrete action is my point.
Right.
And
Actively reflect on it. Yes.
mm, like active listening.
Yeah, that's great. That's
See,
a
but
big
this
part of it.
receiving feedback is about active listening, right? It is.
Only part of it.
Um,
Yeah.
Now you talk about the power dynamics. Yeah, consider the power dynamics. Yeah, because maybe the person, okay, so what if the person giving you feedback wants your job and they're messing with you?
Well, that's
That can
something
happen.
that, yeah, definitely. So that's where you would consider in the consideration that would come up, and then that would definitely demand a follow-up conversation. But I'm
Ooh.
thinking more of the power dynamics of, if I'm your boss and I'm giving you feedback, you receiving the feedback, you can ask some questions and clarify. But one of the questions might have to be, is this something you're suggesting or something you're telling me I have to do?
Mm,
Because the supervisor can say this is feedback that you need to follow up on.
right.
And the other way, again, if a staff person is giving feedback to the supervisor, then there isn't the same imperative, but there is important information there.
Mm. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's ooh, yep. It's all about the goal, the end goal, like as you've said before. Yeah, because you also said, remember, they are telling you their truth. Ooh,
Right.
that's so true because they're coming from their perspective. They're
Right.
going out on a limb. They're telling you what they see. Hmm. So what
Yeah.
if you disagree? Would you say, thank you? Okay, so this is what you're saying. You've repeated it to them, made sure that you're on the same page, and go, I'm going to work on this and get back to you. Would that be a way if you disagree with
Absolutely.
their truth and then do
Or
your
not even,
research? You
yeah,
know?
not even I'm going to work on it, but I'm going to think about this and we can continue this tomorrow.
Hmm.
Um, and if it's something that really, won't fly, then you can respond, but you can still be respectful. And, you know, I on I'm going to think some more about this, but on first hearing this, I don't think it's something I can do. So let's talk some more tomorrow.
Hmm.
But I want to let you know it's not
Hmm.
landing well right now.
I think this is because sometimes people are being it could be an actual error is my point in the
Hmm.
feedback that you're being given. Someone could say, hey, you're closing out the restaurant, and every time you close out this happens, but it could be some weird glitch in the computer system that it's tagging up with your number. I don't know, but I'm just making this up,
Right.
right? And it could be
Yeah.
completely innocent. And then you can go back and go, let me go look at the receipts. Let me go look at what happened. You know what I mean? And verify it and go, hey, I found this is the possibility. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's not an
Absolutely.
argument. My point was to not get into an argument until you've thought it
Exactly.
through and looked at it in a very clear, go for the
Right.
facts first.
Absolutely. And the example I thought of when you were saying that was like if I'm the supervisor and you come and tell me, I don't think it's fair that you fired my coworker, and here's why. And I might know a whole bunch of stuff that you don't know, and I can't tell you. So then might, say, I appreciate that you're telling me. I'm interested in your concerns. And I may even say there's a lot of things you don't know, and this decision isn't going to change.
Mm,
So you can
boom.
respond, but you can still, as you said, respect that it's their truth and not get into a,
He
That's not
said,
going
she
to help
said,
anything. Yeah.
yeah. There are some, yeah, the circumstances in life where I recently had a friend go through a situation where, I mean, it was kind of crazy and it involved a person that's just like a little bit woo, this other person needs a lot of feedback from a lot of different people and maybe some professionally medical people. And she's dealing with them. And as she was dealing with them on this platform, the platform was very good. Everybody's behaving, but this woman was just woo. Like if you woo, you know, it's
Mm.
like if she ate a bad hamburger somewhere, she will go to every hamburger
Um,
shop and go on every like
uh,
it just it blows into this like thing that's a little on the no. Um, but anyway, so my friend gathers all this evidence and has all this evidence on everything to back her up. And then she's going, the more I'm trying to like show the evidence, the more I feel like I'm fighting, getting crazy myself,
uh,
this, because there's a
right.
line, but you have to, but she gathered everything together and had it, thought about it, vented, talked to friends like us, and everybody came together. Okay, let's have a plan of action. kept it very professional, and everything got sorted out. But that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. Sometimes emotions are, yeah, you got to be careful.
absolutely. And I would say two things in response to that. One is that sometimes people just need time to think about it. So
Hmm.
saying, I see this is hard for you to hear, or saying it as the receiver, this is hard for me to hear. Let me take some time to think about it, and then we'll talk more,
Hmm.
to just not get into that reactive mode. And the other thing is that, you can't change anybody but yourself. So, you can give them all the facts and figures and feedback, and then what they do with it is really up to them.
Hmm. Exactly, exactly. Well, I
Yeah.
think this is good advice for these political times too. It's,
Yeah.
it's a weird world we're in, and it spills over into office
Sometimes.
dynamics as well. So we talked about this a little bit now. Is let them know what you will do. So it's like I'll come back. So when you come back to them with, or it could be, maybe you don't have to go retreat off, but and think about things, but you're going to let them know you.
Right. Yeah. Let them know, if you're just going to take some time to think about it, let them know that. If you, in the moment or when you come back, you realize, that's something that I'm really glad you pointed out to me, and I'm gonna, make sure I have a note on my desk to take a deep breath before I march out and tell the team what they did wrong. And I really appreciate you telling me that. So I'm gonna really follow up on it.
That's cool. And then you follow up and say, I did it. I did
Right.
it. And it worked, or it didn't. Or, hey, maybe
Exactly.
you need, maybe, hey, I see it work part way, but what do I do to push it over the, whatever
Right.
it is? So I think
Exactly.
the feedback, it's so good. It's so important when it's done professionally and kindly, compassionately, you
Right.
know, because
Yeah, and the
sometimes you
more we
never
can
know what's going
receive it that
on.
way too, yes,
Hmm.
exactly. And when we can receive it with curiosity and grace and gratitude, it will preserve the relationship and we can learn.
Hmm.
As you said, we
Yeah.
can be learners our whole life.
Yeah. That's the thing, is being the student.
Hmm.
And just go. And sometimes the stuff, it could be, hey, some people are wrong,
That's
you
true.
know, and it might, like I said, like it might mean that you end up in a different place, which turns out to be far better or worse. And then you go, okay, let me see how important was all that to me about
Right.
my belief system. Like, is this,
Absolutely.
you have to learn your boundaries and your goals, and sometimes you have to stumble around a bit to find them. It goes with our age. And I think this is the other part that's so important, is our work environment is changed in generation, and communication is so different now. And so
Hmm.
it's very important to have these sessions of feedback, because it's like put the phone down, which I'm sure is a bunch of feedback on that. It's like
Right.
your phone's going to zap you every time you touch it. But I think that feedback can help bridge that gap in communication, because the communication is different. Just like the chewing of gum was a generational thing.
Right.
But for
Yeah.
people like me, it, it's like someone crunching ice in front of me. It drives me up the wall.
Right.
People crunch, but that's just, there's like a term for it. There's a lot of us out there
Uh-huh.
that it just, but I deal with
Right.
it. I just shut up and go, that's my problem. That's not theirs,
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know,
Wow,
but
that's hard. Although,
well, if you have to
if
live with
I
it
was
though.
doing it in front of you, I would want you to tell me. And, I may not stop doing it altogether, but maybe I can stop when I'm meeting with
Oh
you.
yeah, it just depends. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, people have little habits, but it's like, can you control this your own person? Like, is that something really necessary?
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like in a professional thing, if your boss is chewing ice, you just shut up, because what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, as your boss, I would hope at some point I'd say, is there anything I could do to help our working relationship? And that
stop
would be
chewing ice.
okay. Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't know. It's such a habit for me. I wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily notice that it's irritating you.
Well, I know Nancy when she worked. I think this was an insurance company where she was working, and she always tells this story that She had a boss that everybody had to have their staplers on the right-hand side, and we would walk down in the morning and hit everyone's stapler. And it
Wow.
drove her because it was very authoritative. It was not that's not a pleasant work thing.
Right.
So she just got annoyed and moved the stapler and let him hit his hand, just became this. And that,
Right.
yeah, she didn't stay there.
Right. Right.
Because it
Exactly.
got to, there was no, like, he was not going to listen to feedback on that. It was
Right.
this,
Right.
I'm the boss and that's that. And I
Yeah.
think that mentality is, well, we have a lot of it in the world, but that mentality is not a way to
Right.
move
You're not
forward.
going to
It's
be
not
okay.
productive. It,
Exactly.
yeah, leading
So
with
then,
justice
yeah.
would be nice.
Yeah. So you're right. At that point, you have to decide, is this a big deal that I can't tolerate, or can I just let it go so I stay here?
Well, you're seeing that now with people, the whole thing about working from home versus office. It's a big fight. And you
Right.
know what? Sometimes it takes away all these other little dramas. Sometimes it creates more. But people are having to go, what is my value?
Right.
What do I want and need? And employees have that right, to follow what they want and go to the table and negotiate with between each other and see what's best. If it's a star performer, you don't want to lose them over
Right.
something like
Right.
over one day home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love
Absolutely
these
important to
conversations,
talk.
Rita. I love these conversations.
Well,
So,
it's great to talk to you as always. And I
oh,
think, again, the context here is you want to normalize feedback, that our culture makes us leery of it, but it can be so powerful, giving and receiving.
yeah, and everyone in the episode notes, I'm going to link back to the other, especially last month's conversation on feedback. So you have those, the different acronyms to how everyone can follow through on the systems that you've given Rita, and always good advice. So everyone, that is in the episode notes. So check it out. So though Rita's going on a vacation, so we're going to bid you adieu. But I should
All
say we're
right.
going
Thank
over to
you.
jolly England. Have a wonderful time, and we'll get to see you when you come back. And
Yes.
we want to hear, the next show, were you supervised on your vacation? Did you
Yes.
have a
And where did I
supervisor?
receive feedback? I'm sure there's
Yeah, really.
some
Walk
stories.
faster on that hiking trail. No, we don't want that. You're on vacation. Well, have a wonderful time, Rita. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Lisa. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Big Blend Radio's Supervision Matters podcast with Rita Sever. Keep up with Rita at supervisionmatters.com and listen to new episodes every third Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on bigblendradio.com.